Hi, I'm reporting with my final presentation on human resources within juvenile court. Um, there are 3 points that I wanted to report on within the human resources, and it is I chose human resources because it's one of the jobs that fall under the umbrella of organizational leadership that I actually want to go into. So I thought this would be great, just reporting on human resources and kind of getting a feel of what it is to talk about human resources. And I did speak with the director of human resources for my job. My job is working at Hamilton County Juvenile Court. I started off as a juvenile corrections officer back in 2005. Since then, I've had several promotions, so I'm no longer with Hamilton County Juvenile Court, but I am with Hamilton County Juvenile Court. I'm no longer working at Hamilton County Juvenile Detention Center, which houses youth who have committed various crimes, any crime you could think of. That's who's housed there. Um, and I just wanted to kind of talk about working there and the other correction officers who work there, and what I wanted to talk about was the turnover, the morale, and the recruiting at Hamilton County Juvenile Court. I'm so nervous, so excuse me if you're viewing this. Uh, in speaking to the director, what he explained was there's really no data for the morale of the company. So I'm going to talk on the morale of the company because I do work for the company. So in in a lot of years that I worked there was no raises. So the morale of the company was very low. But because when you're older like me and you're kind of committed to working somewhere, you're thinking that's where you're going to start, and that's where you will end up retiring. It's kind of hard, maybe if I were in my 20s, I would have branched out because with this job, what happened was a lot of people came through the doors as a juvenile correction officer, and this was just springboarding them into their next career, which could have been in law enforcement, within the FBI, working for Hamilton County Jobs and Family Services. There were so many ways that you could springboard from working and just pad your resume and show that you were working at a facility because you may have graduated getting a degree that you came to juvenile court. So we learned that there were a lot of people who came, there were a lot of people who left. But people like me who started off older, I started there at 30 years old. So I was pretty much in into not I won't say my latter years, but I was at a place that I was tired of going from different jobs. And at this time, we started off in 2005 making $11 an hour, which I thought, hey, that's a good amount for right now. Back then I just thought, well, it's fine. There's a lot of overtime that can be had working here at juvenile court. And it was one of the things that I look forward to because I could make as much money as I wanted to make because I could work as many hours as I wanted to work. Now, within that time, with the morale, because we could make as much money as we wanted to make, the morale wasn't really that low in working there because the money that you could make was a decent amount of money that, I could support my son, my grandmother, and my mother because I was able to do a lot of overtime. So I didn't really look at it like that. But something that happened within that time was there were years that working at juvenile court as a juvenile correction officer and just working in Hamilton County, there were years that there were no raises that were given out. So that did kind of play into the morale and our turnover rate. As I discussed with my human resources director, he's telling me that we don't really have anything to show with the turnover rate. I'm sure that they have numbers. Maybe he just didn't want to share them with me, and that's fine. Because I can speak on that to say that with our growth from 2005 until 2024, with the paperwork that he gave me, it's showing that when I started in 2005, there was in 2005, if you can see, we had 3 different locations. We had Hillcrest, we had the judge's office, which is 800 Broadway, and we had the youth center, which is where I work now, is the judge's office, and the youth center is where I came from. If you can see, there were at that time at Hillcrest 155 staff. There were 22 part-time staff. There was 1 contractor. At the judge's office where I worked back in 2005, there were 209 full-time employees. There were 12 part-time. There was 1 contractor. At the youth center, there were 187 full-time employees, and then there was 1 part-time. Let's take that into now 2024. And I'm sorry, I got all kind of paperwork. And as we can see, we've lost the whole Hillcrest. So there are 155 employees that are no longer there. There are now at the judge's office 3 contractor, 210 full-time employees at the judge's office. There are 6 part-time. We have unpaid interns, which there are 6. We have at the youth center 23 contractors, 124 full-time workers, and 7 part-time workers. Now, that's so important is because it's showing us the trend with the people working, that the work has truly, the employees, it's not grown. If we have to see that there are 155 jobs that are gone because we no longer had Hillcrest. They had actually rented that out to someone else. And then we had the judge's office. And then back in 2005, when I started, there were 209 people. Well, now there are only 210. And then at the youth center full time, back in 2005, there were 187, and now there are 124. So I'm not really well with doing the dashboard, but what I need you all to just kind of just follow along with me. I did the best that I could with this, and I trend of how the hiring went from 2005 to 2025. But for real, it really just kind of stayed the same. There was a little growth with our hiring trend, but then the growth ended up falling off. And as I stated, he wouldn't give me the numbers so I could really show that. Now, what I did with our recruiting process, there are so many different ways that they do the recruiting process for juvenile court. And that to me was really interesting because I didn't understand the way that they recruited, nor all the ways in which they recruited. So they do a lot of different practices with that. So, for instance, what they use is, let me show you. I took an example of some of what they use. So they target universities. For instance, University of Cincinnati, Xavier University, Northern Kentucky University, Miami University, Mount St. Joe. They use Ohio Means Jobs, and they use the Veterans Career Fair. So what I did was I took the numbers from 2023, and as you can see, I kind of reported out the amount of people. For instance, we can see that in January of 2023, there were 4 people who were hired from one of these places. So University of Cincinnati, they had 1 hire. Northern Kentucky had 1 hire. Miami University had 1 hire. Mount St. Joe, we had 1 hire. The highest that we had is down here, let's see, I guess it would be 4 would be the highest that we really had with hiring within a month. Well, no, in August, they had 3 from the University of Cincinnati, 1 from Northern Kentucky University, and it looks like 1 hire from Mount St. Joe. And then what happens a lot of times with that is all these people, but do the people really stay? And because the hiring process is so long, that they don't always stay. So what they did in 2020, when the new judge came on, is she increased the hiring wage. And as I stated, for about 7 years, we kind of went without really getting a significant raise there. But what happened was this judge actually decided, well, hey, we need, or the management team behind that decided, we need to increase and give them a living wage that they can use for right now. And with the living wage, what they did, and let me show you, they did was they took, I started in 2005 making $11 an hour when I was at the youth center. So then if we go to like 2014, which is kind of in between that time, we got like $4. So then in 2022, what the judge did was saying, hey, we still need to increase that. So then the people who were started off at $18 an hour. And then in 2024, what they did at the beginning of January was said, hey, we still need to give the people more money so we can keep our employees, and they'll stop leaving. They'll realize that they are making enough money now. So they increased the pay scale to $24 for a juvenile correction officer when you are coming in, which also helps. We are 60 people down at right this moment at the juvenile detention center. So as I stated, there was 187, and now they're down to 124. So 2025 is to get that additional 60 people up so they can get it back to a full working facility where pods do not have to be closed because there are not enough people who will help to run the facility. And then people who they may not have normally let out, young people residents who they may not have normally let out, they can now keep them because they will have the amount of people that they need to keep them. Now, in targeting the hiring trend and with the amount of people there normally is about 4 kids to 1 juvenile correction officer. So that's why they're trying to do a hiring trend and getting at least 60 more people up and running in juvenile detention center so it can be fully staffed. So then that way the morale has increased considerably because of the pay. They did do a analysis, and they had everybody to fill out this report saying how you were as a employee at Hamilton County Juvenile Court, and what can they do to make it better. And that's what happened. What a lot of people did was say, hey, we need more money, and that will make it better because we are the least paid in working for a court system. And so they wanted to bring Hamilton County up to the working pay scale as some of the other counties. And within doing that, they have started to gradually start filling these positions. So this is all I have. I hope that this was enough that you understand it. And please don't grade me too harshly. I did the best I could with using the best information that was provided to me. It's not something that I could find out on the internet. It was a lot of information that would need to come through or human resources, and I shared most of the information they shared with me. Thank you.